It is 7 o'clock. At the beginning of every Exchange Club meeting, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Exchangeite Royce Larson will lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, there's some seats up front here, people. Before we get started, there are a few people that we need to thank because of the things that they did. They made it possible for us to be here tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank the city of Taylorsville for allowing us to use the chamber council so that we had a room big enough that a lot of us could meet and hear our two candidates speak. I'd also like to thank Cheryl Peacock Cottle, our city recorder, for coming and taking time, and she will also be taking the minutes of this meeting. I would also like to thank Amy Newton, who's our communication director for the city. Amy has just done wonders about making sure that communications got out about this. Whenever Exchange does any kind of an event, Amy always jumps in and helps us, and we really do appreciate her help at these times. She's also made arrangements for Channel 17 to be televising this throughout from now until the election. So if you have friends who weren't able to come tonight, it will be playing on Channel 17. And we need to thank Dean Painter back here with the video. He's video recording it for us. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have a video for Channel 17. So thank you, Dean. We appreciate your volunteering. And then also our moderator, Bob Bedont. Now, I have some Exchange-ites. We will take questions from the floor, but they have to be written questions. And Exchange-ites. Royce, you're going to be one. Jay, wave your hand. Linda, and I can help too. Just wave your hand. They'll get it. They'll give you paper and pen and whatever's needed, and make sure that it gets up to our moderator. So without any further ado, Bob, it's yours.
And our thanks to the Exchange Club for the wonderful things they do throughout the city throughout all the years we've been involved. My name is Bob Bedont, and I'm pleased and proud to be your moderator today. We've done moderations for Taylorsville for a while, and I am a long-time resident of the city of Taylorsville, but I happened to move about 3 years ago, so thank you for inviting me back. The debate's going to go as follows. We did a coin toss before the beginning, and Mayor Echtenbaugh won that coin toss. We'll allow him 5 minutes to give an introduction to you, and then we'll allow Mr. Johnson the same amount of time. We'll ask questions. We'll allow 3 minutes for a response to the question and a 1 minute rebuttal. If there's a need to go back and forth a bit, we'll tolerate that as necessary. And at the end of the debate, we'll probably have a 3 or 4 minute closing as we go. Now, for the past couple of weeks, we've been accepting questions on the city blog. And what I've tried to do is organize those questions into some categories. I may not ask the exact question you asked me, but I think the questions are going to cover 80 to 90% of what you've asked. So if you have something that you need to ask, write it down on the paper. Let's bring it up here. The moderator has discretion to ask or not ask questions, or expand the questions so it makes sure both candidates have an equal chance to ask. I don't want to lob softballs at anybody, but I don't want to throw darts either. So we're going to try to be fair as we go with this. So that's the direction we're going to go. Since Mayor Echtenbaugh, you won the coin toss, you have some time to give us an introduction.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you. First off, there are 6 chairs right down here in front. You don't need to stand in the back and unless you're more comfortable that way. Since I have 5 minutes here, I don't think my introduction is going to last 5 minutes, so whatever I don't take, we'll invite Chad to come back and play some more music for the remainder of the time. First off, hello everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jerry Recklenbach. I am the mayor of Taylorsville. My number one issue is bringing businesses back into the city of Taylorsville. The best way to keep our property taxes low is to increase our sales tax revenue. Sales tax revenue will happen when we get additional businesses into the city, when we provide additional opportunities for residents here in Taylorsville, and when residents spend their money here. So I'd like to share with you my plan for improving the economic development in the city of Taylorsville, if I can for a moment. First, we need to continue to focus on current developers and businesses that are close to signing letters of intent or that have already signed letters of intent. In other words, we need to close the business that we're currently working on. Number two, we need to maintain good relationships with legislators, county officials, and other entities to advocate for funding for important projects within our city. Third, we need to lobby for funding from entities like UDOT, Wasatch Front, our legislators, and our own city council to finish projects like our Redwood Road improvements from north of 5400 South, like 4700 South Street, like some bus rapid transit projects, and other important transportation roadway projects. Fourth, we should review our process for business licenses to make sure we are being efficient and as business-friendly as possible. Fifth, reach out to DDR, that is the owner of the Family Center property. Let them know that their center is basically killing our city, and we can't just stand by and let that happen. Then we need to bring them to the table to create a focused redevelopment plan that we can implement in a quick fashion. Sixth, we should advocate small area master plans for our major commercial sites. And seventh, we need to help our economic development team as much as we possibly can to reach out to potential developers and business owners. Now, when I became mayor, we set as a priority our efforts, to focus our efforts on the Family Center and on Plaza 5400, which is commonly referred to as a furniture warehouse site. I'm very excited about some of the opportunities that we have put together for both of those locations, and I'm very confident that in the near future, we will be able to make some exciting announcements about those areas. Enhancing our interaction with the community, having more open communication with all of you is one of also my main priorities. That is why we have created community councils and why we partnered with 2 neighborhoods to rebuild their community park. It also happened to save taxpayers over $10,000 to get those people involved who are going to be using it. I am working to revamp the code enforcement program so that it focuses on the areas of serious violators and softens for those with special circumstances or those that are good neighbors and are genuinely trying to do a good job with their properties. Now, even though Taylorsville is only 17 years old, our neighborhoods and infrastructure in many cases are as much as 50 to 60 years old. We have to face the fact that in some areas around the city, we're experiencing decline in neighborhoods that if we do not address it soon, will threaten the quality of life and property value of all of our residents. We must focus on programs such as the code enforcement, such as neighborhood watch, neighborhood cleanups, etc., to recapture the areas that are already experiencing some of these problems. Now, as mayor, I will always advocate for the taxpayer, but I recognize that it is far less expensive to invest in the city with ongoing maintenance and upkeep than it is to try and rehabilitate after it has been allowed to decline. As elected officials, we must all be willing to make difficult decisions that are in the best interest of the city and to not let politics get in the way. I would appreciate your support on November 5th to keep the momentum going. Sorry, thank you.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Larry Johnson. I would like to personally thank each of you for coming tonight to support this mayoral debate. I am currently serving as a city councilman representing District 5 and have been a privilege and an honor to serve the people of Taylorsville. I am grateful that you have given me the chance to become your mayor. I grew up here in Taylorsville on my grandfather's Holder's farm, where I learned the meaning of hard work and integrity. I have raised my own children here, and several of my grandchildren are growing up in Taylorsville. I truly love this city and really do have the best interests at heart. My wife, Deborah, and I have been married 41 years, and we have 4 wonderful children. Who all graduated from Taylorsville High School, and 11 fabulous grandchildren. I attended the University of Utah, where I studied business. I started a commercial tire company when I was 29 years old, and have been a small business owner for the last 34 years. During those 34 years, I have experienced many economic situations. I've had to learn to adjust each and every time. I didn't have the opportunity or the option of raising someone else's taxes to make up for my business shortfall. Like many others in the city, I've been concerned with the spending of our tax dollars. We need to treat your tax dollars if they were our own and use good old common sense. For the last couple of years, I've been frustrated as a councilman in my 1 of 5 votes in trying to make an impact in prudent decisions. After having many of my neighbors and constituents ask me to run for mayor, I decided to give it my best. I believe that property taxes to cover shortfalls in sales tax revenue can be a double-edged sword. In many cases, people are still struggling, which they have cut back in their spending, thus a decrease in sales tax revenue. Many residents still face with losing their jobs or reduction in income or are living on a fixed income. How are they going to absorb more tax increases? Increasing property taxes, especially by 30%, will not only decrease the amount of money residents have to spend at the retail stores, it will also force commercial businesses to pass along their much larger tax increases to residents in the form of higher taxes. Higher prices. Higher prices will again cause residents to cut their spending or spend elsewhere. Thus a reduction in sales tax revenue. This is an unnecessary and vicious cycle. I've been disappointed that the council has refused to recognize the voices of people. At an official public hearing on June the 5th of this year, over 90% of the residents who spoke were against the large property tax increase. Many feel the city just takes what they want in the form of property taxes as a punishment for sales tax revenue not being what they need to be. I believe that the city needs to live within their means, just like the private sector. I want the city to be a beautiful, viable place to live. I want it to continue to grow. We all understand the economic development is the key that we have been missing for a long time. There are many projects in the works at this time, and I hope that we can continue to move forward in this area. We also need to be business friendly and use every resource that we have to promote the existing businesses and cater to their needs. It has been said that we need to move the city forward. I fully agree with that statement. But I don't want to leave the citizens behind, for they are the lifeblood of this great city. When the city and the citizens work together, it makes for a great combination. It makes a great place to live. I am looking forward to this debate, but you can tell I'm not a polished politician. However, I'll be a great mayor. Thank you.
Thank you both. Let's start out with the idea of taxes. At incorporation in 1995, our income was $13 million. We budgeted $8 million of that, and we're able to save $4 to $5 million with a staff of only 13. Today, revenues are just above $22 million, and if I read the numbers right, we're going to use just about all of that this year. One of our questioners suggested that the city seems to think that our taxpayers are a bottomless money pit. Help us understand your view on taxes in the coming years. Mr. Johnson.
Yes, as you can tell, taxes is my main concern, along with many others. But as the budget session goes on, as we went through it, and believe me, it's grueling, and I got to give the city council a lot of credit. They have to make decisions, tough decisions, as Mr. Reckenbach understands. He was serving there with me for 4 years until he became mayor. They have to make decisions to look out for the city. We have to make decisions to look out for the residents, which is so important. So as we go through the budget item lines, I worry a little bit sometimes there was comments as we were going through that we don't need to worry about the little items, like 1,000 here and 1,000 there. Being in business for 34 years, that little 1,000 here and a little 1,000 there was a lot to me. And it's a lot to the people of Taylorsville and Texas. I'm not a great mathematician, but I've passed in college on that. But 1 or 2 thousands times 30 or 40 line items is quite a deal. It might get us an extra officer or whatever, or it might save the taxpayers some extra tax increase money. The other things that bother me and trouble me and give me heartburn is as we raise taxes, I'm so concerned about the businesses and the effect it has on them, and also the landlords, the property owners, and I really especially consider and really think about the retired people that are on a fixed income. They don't have that opportunity. And so as I continue to fight and, there needs to be at some times a small tax, but it was hard to grasp the tax proposal that was given this year and the final 30% on the people, as we had a 15 last year and a 30% this year. And a proposed fire district, if it passes, could be 30 to 40%. That we just got an email from our CFO. These are just absolutely devastating to the people, the burden that's put upon them. We need to grow as a city
30
together.
seconds.
And so I just hope that we can work together and make sensible and reasonable. And I love the Taylorsville people, and that's why I'm sticking and fighting all I can. Thank you.
Mr. Reichenbach.
Bob, could I ask you to repeat the question?
We asked the question, one of our questioners suggested that the city seems to think that our taxpayers are a bottomless money pit. Help us understand your view on taxes in the coming year.
Thank you. Well, first off, I've been in the council and mayor now for over 10 years. And I know sometimes it seems like that, but I assure you that none of the elected officials think that taxpayers are bottomless pit. Honestly, we're taxpayers. And none of us want to see taxes go up. We have to pay them as well as anybody else. That's honestly the last thing any of us want to do. And I agree with Mr. Johnson. We are very cognizant of the needs of our citizens. But I do think we need to put things just a little bit in perspective. That is, the responsibility of government is to make sure that the essential services of the residents of the city are taken care of, and that's your things like your police, your fire, your public works, which is your snow removal, the maintaining the roads and things like that. Those things cost money to take care of. Now, I know he made the analogy a little earlier that in business he just can't go out and raise taxes on his customers to get more money, but I dare say in the 30 years he's been in business, the price of tires hasn't stayed the same. So things go up for everybody. Price of gas goes up for us. We have to pay that. We know how it is. What we need to understand is the price of services to the city has gone up over the last 10 years. Police and fire alone has increased to the city, the bill we have to pay, almost $10 million. Meantime, between when the recession hit in 2008 and now, revenues dropped by $2 million. In fact, our revenues still don't even equal what they were in 2008. So we dropped quite a bit. We fell in the hole quite a ways. Now, for us to meet our responsibility, our prime responsibility of giving those services to the citizens, we can't do it for free. And at some point, that revenue curve that's coming in crosses over with the expense curve going the other direction, and we're faced with saying, in order for us to provide those services and do the things we are charged to do, sometimes tax increase is necessary. Now, I will have to say that Taylorsville has been very responsible with this money. If you check the charts, compare Taylorsville with the surrounding cities, Taylorsville is well below our tax rate in most of the cities around you. The chart that I was looking at just the other day, I have right here, go next door to West Valley City. Even with the most recent increase, we are almost 40% lower than West Valley.
30 seconds.
Thank you. 47% lower than Midvale, and a full 64% lower than neighbor Salt Lake City. And of course, South Shore and Riverton are there as well. So we think that your money's been handled wisely and carefully in Taylorsville, and even though we regret having to increase it, it's one of those things that will pay dividends to the city in the long run.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, you have a 1-minute rebuttal if you need it.
I'll just say that we as citizens would also like to recognize that the tax increase was thought about them. In a meeting, in a strategic, not a strategic, but a meeting on, I think it was June the 5th that I was reading the minutes, 19 people came to the mic, 17 opposed the tax increase. Some of them were almost in tears. I'd just like to say that we as city council and as administration, we need to consider the people. Sometimes government, it needs to be there, but you know what? This country was built on the people for the government, not the government for the people. So I just think we need to be very, very watchful of people's money, and we need to consider their thoughts and their concerns and put that in our thoughts and our budgets. Thank you.
Mr. Reckenbaugh, citizens have asked about the infrastructure maintenance on streets and flood control especially. How do you see your role as steward of the city infrastructure, and how do we fund the necessary expense to keep our infrastructure current?
Thank you, Bob. That's really going to be a difficult one to answer in 3 minutes, so I'll try and give the Reader's Digest version. In fact, a week from today, I'll be testifying before a joint House and Senate committee up on Capitol Hill about that very thing. The truth of the matter is, the funding which we receive from what's called B&C roadway funding, the formula set up by the state government. We receive it, the money comes in from gas tax monies. Historically, pays about 1/2 of the actual costs that the city has to pay just to maintain roadways. At the same time, the costs to maintain the roadways is going up. Look at the price of fuel, of oil over the last 10 years. And everything we do in the city, is, like it or not, is based around gasoline. And so whether we're driving a car, whether we're out paving the roadway, all those services are based around the cost of fuel, which has gone up. So one of the things we'll be testifying about, or I'll be testifying about, is that there needs to be an additional form of funding for this maintenance, because right now we're falling behind. And if I could show you the curve, if I had my PowerPoint presentation, if we fail to maintain and preserve our roadways, specifically our infrastructure, in the first 5 years, and so we defer it a year, then the average cost, if you use it as a baseline, it goes from $1 to $3 in the 5 to 10 years. So essentially, it's tripling. Then if we defer it further, it can go all the way up to essentially $10 and 10 times what it would be if you just had the money to maintain and preserve that roadway. If we could stay on course, if we had the budget, if we had the funding to adequately preserve our roadways, our infrastructure in its first 5 years the way it's intended to be, theoretically that roadway would last forever. And therein lies the problem. We don't have those funds, and when we do, like this year, we're having to dip into our general fund just to make sure those roads don't fall apart. And when we dip into the general fund, then of course it takes away funding from some of our other necessary items. And so it's kind of a vicious cycle. We just keep falling behind. So that's one of the issues we're facing this year as mayors in the county here. And we'll be taking that battle up to Capitol Hill in February to try and find some relief and find a manner that they can legislate to get us additional funding to keep up with the infrastructure costs.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, thank you. As you well know, or many people, I voted no on the $300,000 extension, or the money going into the road. What we need is, before I go on farther, I'd just like to say, as I looked into that, The reason why I voted no on that is because we had 1.2 million that we were told we had. We had 200,000 that we were told last year with unused snow removal went into that. And we also had projects of 32 West, I understand, and 22 West that were already in last year's budget. And so that's the reason why I voted no. I figured we had enough, that we didn't need to further the tax increase on the people. Now, my proposal is a long-term plan. First of all, if we have a long-term plan and we budget our money, we go out and we cite places that need the most direct attention. As we spend our money, we catch up, and the next year comes around, and sometimes we do get that extra money in. So I would encourage that we have a long-term plan on the road maintenance and infrastructure. Businesses, as long as they know we have a plan, and there's been comments about, oh, Taylorsville, nobody wants to move here and move there, but if they know that the city has a plan ongoing every year to improve the looks, the roads, the sidewalks, they're going to be excited to come in here because they know that it's in our plan. We just need to make sure that we live within our budgets, and that we don't get carried away. I know that it's important, but you know what? Again, we go back to the people in their pocketbook. We need to be considerate of them, and they're part of us. And I just think if we have a long-term plan, we'll be able to get this thing accomplished without raising huge taxes, and we'll be able to keep everybody happy. Thank you.
1 minute rebuttal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, I think we need to clarify, Taylorsville does have a long-range plan. We have a very effective and very detailed pavement management plan that we've been following for years, and that's what I was alluding to. That plan details the roadways and the exact dates, the exact times, and what type of preservation type work they might need on them, and the date, and that's designed to make those roadways last. But as I explained, statistically, it's not just Taylorsville, it's all the cities in the county and presumably other counties around the state as well. Our funding is already behind. We've already fallen behind on those. And so we can't just say, just do a little bit now, then as money catches up, because the money is already fallen behind. And yes, Mr. Johnson voted no on the $300,000 after our city engineer explained in quite a bit of detail that we were behind. And if we did not pass that, then we'd fall further behind.
10 seconds.
And the upcoming years, it would cost much more, up to double or triple, depending on the roadways and how much longer we defer it. So we're past the time of saying that we'll just save for that, do it when we can. So.
In the Bedone family household,
Do I get a rebuttal, a minute or a half a minute?
Oh, mine was a rebuttal.
Oh, yours is a rebuttal, sorry.
in the Bedone family, when we need to meet our budget, we either reduce the services that Mom and I provide to our kids, or we find a way to get new income. It's difficult to reduce services anymore. We've established that the Taylorsville City is already operating on the lowest amount of income that most other cities. So, you've been a city official now for some time, both of you. The question that many have asked is, what specifically have you done to promote economic development, to raise the income to the city, and what would you plan to do differently as mayor? We'll start with Mr. Johnson.
Well, one thing that I've done is we are, along with Mr. Reckenbach and I, we've served on the city council. As we go into closed sessions and discuss things like this, I'll guarantee you that anything that is positive and anything that is moving the city forward, we all are on board. I've been disappointed in some of the things that have been going on, and then all of a sudden they just fizz out. Believe me, economic development is crucial. You know, I remember back when my oldest son, we used to go to, I think it was Round Table Pizza over here in the family center, and that's been 15, 20 years ago. And always concerned about the buildings and the empty buildings we have. We need to also, as we look towards our economic development and looking forward to good things, we also need to be maybe I'm getting off a little bit, business friendly. We need to go out and we need to find out. We've lost businesses in Salt Lake, or in Taylorsville, R.C. Willie, other ones. And I guess I'd really like to have a program where we could go out and we could, whether it was the police or whether it was community development or whether it was economic development people, that we could go and ask them how things are going. We could promote them. We could see if they had a problem and are concerned. We could deal with it before all of a sudden we get the word, oh, by the way, we're moving. Those are the things that I'm concerned about. We're always going to be trying, I'll guarantee you, I'm always going to be trying to get businesses in there, just like the mayor said, because that's the bloodline of our city for sales tax. But we also need to retain the ones that we have. And I know my business in West Valley City, they're pleasant. They come in, the fire department, and you know what? I'm satisfied. I'm not really wanting to leave. And that's what I think we need to do more of, is promote. We need to maybe do a little advertising for businesses that we can get in here to promote sales tax, that they want to be here. Make them feel friendly and their needs, and be concerned about their problems. And so that's what I do.
Mr. Rectenbach.
Thank you. That's an excellent question, because as I stated, that's the key thing to Taylorsville moving in, not only in the next year or two, but for years down the road. So the question, as I remember it, was what have I done and what am I doing to promote economic development? First, I'll go back to when I served on the city council. On the city council, I was very involved in economic development. I felt at that time that was key to our future as well. For years, I have donated my time, sacrificed my time every year to go to Las Vegas to what's called the International Conference of Shopping Centers, where we go and meet with brokers, meet with developers, meet with realtors, and all those in businesses that could potentially bring their businesses here to Taylorsville, Salt Lake City. I spent a great deal of my time helping to develop the packages that we take before them. A few years back, we had the opportunity to invest in our city, that we'll talk about a little bit, and purchase some software that's called ESRI, ESRI software, which greatly enhances our ability to do forecasts, to show to these people the demographics and the economies and the advantages of coming here to Taylorsville and doing business. Now, I've carried that over after becoming mayor, and as I said, I made that my priority. One of the first things I did was restructured our organization such that our economic development department would be more focused, have greater autonomy and ability to get out and meet with our businesses and focus on those key issues that we know we have to address. I mentioned the family center. I told them at the time that the family center has got to be our greatest priority, because that's our power center. That's the lifeblood of our city, and it's gone downhill for quite a while. I have met with the owners of the family center, and we have told them that it's time for them to step up. Short of an ultimatum, we've said we need you to do something to that center because it's a lifeblood of our city. On a day in and day out basis, our economic development is more than just our shopping centers. It's your neighborhoods. It's where you live. It's our major arteries, our streets, our Redwood Rows, our 54s, and we know that we have to enhance those. It has to be a place that businesses want to come and be happy to come, because they know if the city is not willing to invest in their community, they're not going to be great partners with the business. So we can't just say we're going to focus on Round Table Pizza or whatever it is and all those shopping centers. We have to look at the bigger picture. And it's critical right now for us. We've got some great momentum going, but the things we do now or fail to do now could shape the future of our city for the next 20 to 30 years. It's not just what's going to happen next year. It's critical.
Mr. Johnson, a minute rebuttal.
Yes, I think the Round Table Pizza, Mayor, I was just using that for an example of how long that the economic development has been kind of lost in our city. And that's the concern I've had for many years. And it is good to see that things are starting to move. And I support them full-heartedly. As mayor, I would be more than on board of supporting everything that's going. That's one thing that Mayor Reckenbach has an advantage on. He gets to do those things where I have to sit back and listen to the successes and whatever. But I promise you, as mayor, I'll be in there just as much as anybody and fighting hard. So thank you.
Bob, may I comment on that real quick? I'll use just 30 seconds. First off, I apologize. I didn't mean that to be anything other than a reference to the Family Center Round Table Pizza. And the other thing is, yes, I am mayor, and I am doing that every day now. But the point is, for 9 years as city council member, I did it then. I didn't wait and say, when I'm mayor, then I'll do these things. I have been actively involved. I've sacrificed my time, and it's time I didn't get paid for, and away from my business. I was out there doing it. So I think it's part of the point here is it's easy to say I'm going to do these things, but I think actions where we've been and the things we are doing speak a little bit louder than what we say we're going to do.
Thank you. Let me change the focus just a little bit. I was in a meeting 15 years ago, and Don Adams, who was in part of the economic development, talked about economic development not as a way to raise money for the city, but as a way to increase the lifestyle for citizens. So I want you to talk to me a little bit about economic development, not as it relates to raising money to run city government, but what impact does it have on individual citizens? Mayor Reichenbach.
Thank you. That's probably a pretty good lead-in because I think I just alluded to that. As I said before, I think I said this in my State of the City, and I've mentioned it on a number of occasions, economic development goes beyond just what business are we going to bring into what center. Because we all know, and we've learned this over the years, that a significant business, and I'll just throw a name out, let's say that we're trying to recruit a Home Depot to come down to 5400 South, which, by the way, we've recruited more than once. And if it's interesting to them, and if we have their attention, they say that's a potential location, then they're going to send a contingency into Taylorsville. And they'll go right to the site, and they'll say, how does the site fit what we want to do? But then they don't stop there. Then they're going to go and they're going to drive the neighborhoods around the site, and they'll say, how do these demographics fit? Are these what Taylorsville told us they are? And they'll say, what kind of neighborhoods are they? What kind of pride is in the neighborhood? How is this community invested, or is the city invested in that community, in those neighborhoods? That is a huge determining factor by these businesses when they come in. So that's exactly why one of my first items when I got into office was to say we have to reach out to these neighborhoods. We have to fix the things that are broke. The code enforcement, for example, needed. We have to have code enforcement. It's critical in our city, but we can do it better. And so we are in the process of revamping and about ready to have that whole program done, revamping that program. So instead of going out and worrying about a tree that the branches are hanging down within 6 inches of where they should be on an otherwise nicely done yard, we're focusing on those recalcitrant areas, those habitual offenders that are so bad that it's starting to creep throughout the neighborhood. And those are the things that become a cancer within your city. And then the next thing we decided we had to do is get out into our communities. And the best way to do that was to establish the community councils, which we've done. We set up 10 community councils throughout the city that are the eyes, ears, the voice of you, the residents, coming back to the city, and we're blending those in. One of the things I've told our code enforcement officers is, if there's an area and we're not exactly sure what's going on, and it could be a lot of things and we don't know, then we need to get into that community council before we go hang a threatening notice on the door. Get into that community council and see what's really going on. The neighbors are going to know. Thank you. The neighbors are going to know, and if there's an extenuating circumstance, it could be illness, it could be disability, age, a lot of things, then we take a much different approach than just hanging up a notice and saying you'll be fined if you don't fix this. So there's so many facets to economic development that goes way beyond just recruiting businesses to come here.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Would you repeat that question, please?
The question was asked, economic development can be seen in many ways. Some to bring more money in to run city government, but it's also a way to enrich citizens. Help us understand your view of the role of economic development in relation to how it impacts our citizens.
Yes. If we can maintain the businesses that we get in here and promote the businesses, our citizens will shop. And this was what we need, is we need our citizens to shop in our town, Taylorsville. But as we lose businesses, that's my main concern, is why do we lose them? I mean, I don't want to see anybody go because we've lost so many. And now we're starting to maybe gain them back. And I agree that we need to we need to go after, and we need to improve things, as I talked about, our roads, our sidewalks, beautify the city, but we need to do it in a way that our citizens can afford to do it. Because there's nothing worse than having a city look beautiful and overtaxing the people to where we don't have anybody left in the city because they want to move or whatever. Also, we need to, like I said before, we need to promote the businesses we have. We have a journal that we could say, hey, this spaghetti over at Garagousi's or whatever their name is, I forgot. Saragusi's, which is good food. We could promote that and say you really ought to try that or whatever. I think businesses that are here would really appreciate that. And then those that maybe want to expand, Taylorsville is not too small to have a couple of the same businesses, one end of town and the other. So we need to make sure that we get out there and see if they want to expand. We just need them to be here. Because right now, that's the problem we have, is people say all the time, well, the food's great over at the Texas Roadhouse. And it is great, but guess what? Then they say, well, we want to go over here and go over there. So they're leaving the city, and that's why we do need to get these businesses in here. But we also need to keep the ones we got. We need to encourage them to be here, and we also need to promote them so that our citizens are aware of what's out there. Because we need in this city that kind of income. Businesses, restaurants, clothing stores, everything. We can't afford to have them shut down and go home. And that's why, just like for instance, with R.C. Willey, people shop there. We need that. But maybe we should have found out why they were moving long before they announced they were gone. I don't know. Maybe we did. But I know one thing. I'm really concerned because when that shuts down, then we're empty with a lot of empty tax base there. So thank you.
Mr. Reichenbaugh, 1 minute rebuttal.
Thank you. There are many reasons why businesses have closed their doors, have left the city of Taylorsville, but none of those, I assure you, are for lack of effort on the city's part, especially R.C. Willey. One of the things we have found, and one of the things we do know, is that if an owner, let's use a shopping center, let's use DDR, their family center, if an owner fails to reinvest in themselves, on an average, statistically, I think it is every 10 to 15 years, more or less reinvent themselves, then they fall behind. Then the businesses start looking at the districts or the Jordan Landings or the Valley Fair malls because it's a more attractive place for their customers to come. So a lot of that burden falls on the owner, which obviously we cannot control. We can only encourage. And part of it also, the part that falls on us as a city is what I've already addressed, and that's infrastructure. And I will go back to something
10 seconds.
Thank you, something that did come up during the budget sessions, and that was a poll of the businesses in Taylorsville that of every one of them that responded to the poll said they supported a tax increase to, if it was needed, to improve the streets and make it more attractive for their business environment.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Last summer, Taylorsville opted to join the United Fire Authority, a citizen initiative will bring the issue back to the voters. Help us understand your position on the UAF and on the rebuilding of the fire station on Redwood Road, should that not happen.
Thank you. Let me just give you a little timetable here that on June the 2nd, as I read in the minutes, Chairman Reichenbach introduced Chief Michael Jensen to discuss the fire. This was of last year. As it was introduced, it was told to us that it needed to be made a decision within 2 or 3 weeks. This introduction was also done at the same time the Utah or the United Police was voted on. So I voted no on the fire because of 2 or 3 reasons before the other questions were found out and answers. I voted no because we kept asking. I'm a real stickler on getting some answers before I vote on something. In fact, many times I've asked the council, let's discuss it a week before we bring an amendment to us. And because I think we need to know what we're talking about. I hate to vote on something that I don't know anything about or have a chance to study it. With the fire, the district, they The original proposal was 50% of our tax base, which means that would be about, and I asked many times about this, would be about a 63% property tax. Asked the CEO, CFO, and I was alarmed and shocked. And I thought, wow, this is all we need more is more taxes. So by the time that we were basically told that we need to make a decision on this, there's no way that I could vote yes on this without more research, being so quick on the draw to get it done, and with that property tax so high. So the next step that happened is after the residents, after it was done, the residents had quite an uproar about hearing about it, not learning about it, and also the huge increase of tax. And then that's when the 12 or the petitions were going around, and I think there was 1,400 we needed, and there was like 2,800 that signed it. That's when it got to go to the ballot this year. Also, as that went through the year, we an ad hoc committee.
30 seconds.
Chairman Barber asked that we get two people from each district, and they did a survey, and a committee reported to us, and they found out that Taylorsville didn't need it. And I think you were asking about bonding. Was that no? Not yet. Okay. So that's where that ended up, and that's why I voted no. There was not enough time to discuss it, and it was brought in so fast that I never vote on things that I'm not sure of. So thank you.
Mr. Rectenbach.
Would you mind repeating that, since it is, I think, 2 or 3 parts there? I want to make sure I get them.
Last summer, this Taylorsville opted to join the United Fire District. The citizen initiative brings the issue back to the voters. Help us understand your position on that question and about rebuilding the fire station on Redwood Road.
Okay, thank you. All right, very good. Just quickly, some background, and honestly, my view that is really, it's a moot point. It's on the ballot. The residents will decide on November 5th whether we join the district or not. So that's really where we are. And either way that's voted, I will support it, and we'll do our best to move ahead with what we have. But just in a nutshell, I will kind of describe my view of that. And it was a year ago in June, when the discussion first came up. I am and was a member of the board of directors of the Unified Fire Authority. And so we began investigating the possibility. And remember, a year ago at this time, we were looking at trying to bridge a $1.4 million shortfall in the budget as we were discussing budget situations. So we were looking at a number of different opportunities there. So when it came to us, we looked at the options. We had Chief Jensen come and give us a presentation of what it meant. And just so everybody out there understands, there are 2 different things. There's Unified Fire District, which is the funding mechanism for Unified Fire Authority. The Fire Authority is that it's the boots on the ground. It's the trucks you see and the people who give us the service. We've been with Unified Fire Authority since 2004, since it was formed. So all this really meant was, instead of us collecting your taxes and paying them, the taxes would be collected by them on your property tax notice, and then, of course, the city would roll back taxes. So when it was presented to us and we looked at the options, I'm going to have to be quick here because I'll get to part 2. The numbers were brought to us, said to join the Unified Fire District, all the numbers we looked at would, in the long run, save us money. So it made sense to at least look at it, propose it at that time. As I said, since then it's on the ballot. And so there's 2 websites out there. You folks will make the judgment. Now let's go to Station 117 real quick on Redwood Road. The fire department has been saying for years, it was built in the 60s, that it was deficient, needed to be replaced. In I think February or March this year, asked the fire district to do a study of that building to verify whether it was or not. A team of professional engineers and architects did a thorough examination of that building, provided a report to us, which I passed on to the entire council, which verified the fact that the building was old. It was insufficient for the purpose it is now being served for. It was also insufficient structurally to be added upon and increased, because it just didn't have sufficient structure. It wasn't adequate for earthquake retrofitting. and the lot it's on is too small. So there's no question that that station needs to be replaced. And it's just a matter of time, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after, it's going to have to be replaced, either by the citizens of Taylorsville or by the fire district.
Mr. Johnson, 1 minute rebuttal.
I'm sorry I missed that last part on that building, but I have been down there and visited and seen that building all my life since I've lived here for so long, and it does need some attention. But the attention that I would like to see is I don't like to bond if I don't have to. But one thing about bonding, it's a way that we could rebuild that station, and it would be paid back in 10 or 12 years, whatever the bond is set at. Just one final comment on that is taxes never go away. So if the fire district is passed in the ballot, which, like Mayor Rick Buck said, either way, but if the fire district is passed, it's been told and on an email that I got from Taylorsville CFO that it's between 30 and 40% more tax for next year. You take a 40 and a 30 and a 15 from last year, we have 75% tax in the last 2 years. That's absolutely ridiculous, and we need to watch our spending.
Mayor, any comments?
No, good.
Great, let's shift bases a little bit. We've talked a lot about taxes and money, and those things are important, and they apply to everything we do here in the city. But one of our questioners asked about your views about a healthy community. How important is it to you, and what will you do to promote a healthy Taylorsville? And I think it's Mayor Rectenbach?
Is it me?
Mr. Johnson's turn, I think.
Okay.
Well, there's one thing that we do have in our city is we have
Mayor, it's your turn.
Oh, okay.
You
Well,
have some more tonight. Sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you. Well, obviously, every community puts a great deal of emphasis on being a healthy community. In Taylorsville, we have a volunteer committee, which is called the Healthy Taylorsville Committee. So we've always placed a premium on that. One of the things we're doing is sponsoring some events. The recent Open Streets event, which we just held 2 weeks ago, something like that, right out here, was geared towards an awareness and increasing awareness on health and the effects of a healthy lifestyle. One of the things that we've been working on, in fact, in January, we were able to secure funding to complete a trail system that would connect Valley Regional Park here behind us, probably meander through the City Hall right out here, go down and connect Vista Park, and then all the way over Taylorsville Park and ultimately Jones Dairy. That would be a multifaceted trail for walking, hiking, biking, etc. Another thing that is very important to us, and I alluded earlier to the transportation funding issues. One of the caveats that we've placed on that issue that I'll be testifying on next week up to the legislature is that any funding we get needs to have a component to it for what we call active transportation. And those are for the active persons that want to bike to work, want to take a trail to work, or even hike to work, for whatever that case is. So we have a trails master plan here in the city. We're always improving and added on to that. And it's our goal to, as funding is available, but as you've heard, that's kind of the limitation here, is finding enough funding and extra cash to build those things. And that's why we're lobbying with our legislators and others to try and find that extra cash to build those facilities.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, I don't think I'll take 3 minutes on this either, Mayor. I'm the first one that probably needs a little more healthy Taylorsville. And ask my wife, and she always is on me. But one thing about it, I agree. We do have Retta McGiff that is doing a good job. And as she brings us food, that's sometimes, I don't know what it is, but she said it's healthy on council meetings. And I just eat, and then pretty soon I turn to Christy Overson and say, boy, this isn't bad. And then as soon as I get to the dates and the yams, then I back off. So, but anyway, yeah, we need to be mindful of a healthy Taylorsville when we can afford it. And our Taylorsville becomes a little more readily on money available from economic development, which I hope happens. I would like to see a youth rec center, something where the kids can go. You know, I'm really want the youth and the kids as a family place to live, and we need things like that. We need to just have places that they can call home and be there without going out getting in trouble. And so that is part of being healthy. I remember being young that I used to be in shape when I played basketball for Kearns High, and I'm disappointed in myself that I put on a few pounds. But we do need to think about those things. It's vital. We have a great city, and we need to continue to work towards being healthy. And I appreciate the things that Retta Hallstrom has done. And sometimes I think we go overboard a little bit once in a while on the skate down the middle of the street and whatever, but it was fun, I guess. So thank you.
You're skinny. Do you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, sure, skinny.
Did you say Sagini? Oh, I think I'm offended either way, Bob. I don't know. Not so much a rebuttal, but I will vouch for the fact that I knew Larry when he was playing basketball for Kearns High, and he was pretty fit. So I mean that as a compliment. He was a good basketball player. A couple of things now. See that I say something nice to you, and I lose my old train of thought. But an issue that I should have mentioned that I failed to is another thing we're working on is city parks. We obtained from the LDS Church last year for no dollars a new city park, which is called the Leyburn Park over here, and we've been trying to find funding to complete it. We were able to take some monies we were getting back on certain road projects, put into it, and we made that a dual thing. We made that not only a park, but we're solving a safety issue on Redwood Road for the residents of 6020 to get out. So we need to complete that park to get funding, and we have plans to do something out here in a similar way. And so I agree with him. You just don't manufacture money to do that, but that's what I alluded to. Last year with the help of our great legislators, Senator Harper and Senator Maine, we got $700,000 for the current trail, and there were more where that came from. So.
As I read letters that were sent in, many people talked about beautification thoughts. Some talked about street trees, some talked about city entrances. There was a very specific question about residential street parking. Comment was made that my street is not my neighbor's storage area. Some talked about code enforcement, others about parks, specifically about the Jordan River Parkway. What's your philosophy of beautification and code enforcement? Mayor, we start with you. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, we start with you.
Yes, that is very important. One thing about code enforcement is I see that problem with more and more. We had a discussion the other night about multifamily dwelling or people in a one single home dwelling and the cars and the congestion. That needs to be addressed. I understand that at certain times that families have people home from the Army and missions and everything else. But we need to be on top of the things that congest our city. We also have a law or a code or whatever during the snowplow that those cars need to be off the street. And it is a problem. And we need to beautify our city. And you know what? The nicest thing that we need to see is things parked neat, and because the neighbors keep their place up, and it just seems like we just have a problem a lot, and we just need to keep up on the code enforcement because it helps our situation, it helps our area. As Mr. Reckenbach said, they drive through people to look at our businesses, and they drive through subdivisions, and if they're all cluttered and a mess and whatever, it's not a good sight. So we need to enforce, but we need to be fair on code enforcement. We need to not just jump on everybody to give a ticket. We need to warn them. We're all human. But if somebody's got a pile of dirt that they just moved there to put in their garden and they get a ticket, that's absolutely ridiculous. We need to give them a chance. But on the other hand, when we give them a chance and they keep abusing it, then we need to crack down and we need to take care of the problem. And sometimes I get a little frustrated because I go by the same house that I've complained 3 or 4 times and it's still a mess. and wonder what they're doing. And I just expect things and hope things can work a little faster, because the neighbors, believe me, I get a lot of calls, and I go out and see a lot of places that I personally, when I'm called by people in my district or anybody, I go to their place, look it over, meet them, and I try to get some things done. And we just need to keep our city beautiful by keeping things where they should and obeying the ordinances and the codes that we have. Thank you.
Mr. Reckenbach.
I'm sorry, Bob, would you mind stating all those things you wanted to address one more time?
Several of our commenters asked about city beautification, some about street trees, some about city entrances. A very specific question was asked about residential street parking. The comment was that my street is not my neighbor's storage area. Some asked about code enforcement, others about parks, specifically about the Jordan River Parkway. What is your philosophy on beautification and code enforcement?
Okay, I think I have all that. Well, I've spoken somewhat about code enforcement, and to Mr. Johnson's point, I think I addressed that we are revamping the code enforcement. We are focusing on the areas that are truly problems and continuous violators, and we're making sure that we understand those who are not. To the point about if you go buy a home that's been complained and it's still that way, pick up the phone, give me a call, or give John Morgan a call. I assure you, it's not being ignored. There are, I don't have time to go into all the intricacies of a home that's been foreclosed or whatever, and our guys sometimes just pull their hair out trying to deal with those issues. So some are much easier to deal with than others. I think I've also stated my position fairly well, that I think beautification in our city is essential. That if we don't pay attention, it's kind of a cycle. And I've mentioned this to people before, that everyone lives here in this community because they love the community. They moved in when it was a nice place to live, a friendly place to live, and that's what we want it to stay. And pretty soon a neighbor or two, maybe a renter or somebody new moves in there, and they don't have the same philosophy. They allow their place to degrade. And so you get frustrated as a neighbor. You say, well, I'm going to move out to some of those new developments somewhere in Harriman or something where it's nice again. So you go out and you seek that, and then you sell, and somebody comes back in that maybe has the same attitude as the ones living next to you. So you can see how it grows, and pretty soon it takes over your whole city, and it's really tough to get that back. And it's not just beautification at that point. Then you start seeing things like additional crime and gangs. They start moving into your city, and then what you find is the costs that maybe you think you saved because you didn't spend a little money investing in these areas become much greater because of the crime, because of the calls for service and everything else that goes along with it. So, we've got to pay attention to ourselves as a community, as a neighborhood. We've got to be able to maintain our major corridors, to beautify those, to keep them up to snuff and attractive, so that, my goal, and I've told this to our economic development people and to my city manager, John Morgan, is that my goal is when people enter Taylorsville, it's almost like you can exhale again, because it's this oasis in the middle of the valley.
30 seconds.
And we can be that. Yeah, I don't think that's just a pipe dream. We can be that. And we can be it without using Gestapo-like tactics on our neighbors. We can do it properly and correctly, and we'll get there.
Mr. Johnson, a rebuttal.
Yes, I agree. I've lived here a long time, and I've watched the beautification somewhat deteriorate. One thing that I'd like to say is, don't laugh at me, but graffiti is a concern of mine. And I noticed traveling around the city, because I do a lot, I'd like to see the same color of paint on the graffiti on every wall, not gray and blue and all kinds of colors. It kind of makes it look kind of raunchy. So I would promote that we at least put the same color of paint on the brick, and that might sound petty, but it doesn't beautify anything with what looks like patchwork done. So thank you.
Let's ask an ethics question. Someone asked, sent in a note that asked, because you both are businessmen and deal within the city of Taylorsville, have you had opportunity to sell your services to the city, and have you done so following all the ethical guidelines? I think that's a yes or no answer. The bigger question might be, we understand that power corrupts, and across the country and in specific communities, we know that a level of power allows people to misuse that trust, both in terms of spending city money and in terms of personnel that go beyond the bounds of ethical conduct. Are you comfortable with the city's ethics policies? Do you think we need to look more at something else? So first, the yes or no question: have you dealt with the city? Have you done so in an ethical manner? I think if you said no, I'd be real surprised, but I got to ask the question because they asked of me. The next is, are you comfortable with our ethical standards as written?
Okay. Well, it's not really yes or no answer. As far as selling my professional service to the city of Taylorsville, not as an elected official. I did some consulting engineering prior to being elected, and since that time, I have consulted. I have served the city on technical advisory groups, citizen advisory groups, on things such like our general plan, our Red Road beautification, the Jordan River Trail, and many civil projects where I have some expertise. And I volunteered to provide oversight and citizen comment or citizen review, and both as a planning commission and as a council member. But as far as selling services, since I've been elected, I've avoided that. I've not done that. I'm sorry, part two.
The next question is whether or not you feel our ethics policy.
Or ethics policy, yes. That's something I haven't reviewed recently, so I couldn't speak exactly to what it says. But I will say this: I think we have some of the people of the highest integrity and honesty that I've met in a long time, especially in the upper management here in our city. And they're extremely ethical, they're extremely open, extremely transparent. And I'm very comfortable not only with our policy, but I'm very comfortable with those who are charged with overseeing that policy and overseeing the day-to-day service of the city as being highly ethical.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, I agree with the mayor. I haven't reviewed the ethic part of the city. I have sold some tires to the cemetery, but believe me, I had to get the okay from Mayor Wall, and he gave me the right act and made me sure that I did everything right, and I appreciate that. I think I also fixed a flat or two for the cemetery, so those are the things that has happened. I haven't had services for a couple of years. We don't wear a lot of tires out over there at the cemetery on the pickup. So let's see. Oh, and the next one, boy, this is going to be a short one. I have not, but I do agree with the mayor that the people in the city, including the mayor and myself, I can speak for both of us, that we have some integrity. I've been in business for 34 years. I guarantee you, if I didn't have some and took care of my problems and took care of the people that complain, my business would be gone. Those are the things we have to do, and that's what, as I read earlier in my introduction, I learned that from my grandfather and my family. Farmers are really honest, man. We used to leave the door open at night. We didn't care what came in, but it was always good. So, but anyway, yeah. And so I agree. The city has got top-notch people, and I think we're all pretty much on board. And I'd commend everybody who works for the city, including the council. Everybody. I've never seen any problems at all, and I'd like to thank Mayor Wall for keeping me in line, make sure I'm doing the right things on that, selling those tires. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Rebuttal?
Oh, we're good.
Many questioners wondered about your relationship with the citizens. It's easy as a person elected official to cloister yourself amongst yourself and to rely on city staff for information and not get outside of these meetings where we come to talk. The questioners ask, what do you plan to do to better interact with citizens so that you can understand their needs on a personal level?
Oh, my first again? Okay.
No, it's me.
Oh, my apologies, I got that missed.
That's one thing that I can honestly say that I've been taught, and I think that there are some people here that I've actually, not even in my own district, have called me, and I've gone personally to their house to sit down with them. That is one thing that I personally believe. Even in this campaign that we're in, if somebody calls me or emails me for a sign, I personally knock at the door and deliver it myself. And I want to meet them. And you might think, oh, that's just campaign, but I do that without the campaign. I'm not trying to boast or pat myself on the back, but that's always been something I've been taught. I like people, I love people, I like to mingle with them, I like to talk to them, and be comfortable around them. I'm the type of person that promotes and goes and says hi to somebody before they say hi to me. And if they don't say hi to me, I just say, well, okay, whatever, I tried. But yeah, I do. My citizens in my district, I'm with them all the time. I talk to them all the time. I see them. I've lived around them for 55 years, and most of them, a lot of them up there have been there 30, 40 years. So they know who I am. I get waves a lot, and I'm proud of that, and I feel great about it. So I do treat people like I would want to be treated, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Recktenbach.
Thank you. Well, honestly, Bob, I'm a people person. And sometimes to my detriment, Amy, our communications director, gets on me from time to time saying I'm a little too personal with some people, and she's right. So I have to learn to put that apart. But as far as getting out to the people, I think we're probably on the same vein there. My cell phone is printed on my business cards. It's on our website. It's on any brochures that's gone out to you as people during this campaign season. I get calls on that cell phone all hours of the night, and I answer it because I need to be accessible to the people. Another thing that I've done in the past more than once is that obviously, as I'm sure you're aware, my office gets its share of complaints, and people will call and email. And I've had people email me and have an issue and be a little upset about a certain issue. And if they've left their name or any kind of information on that, sometimes they're anonymous, they don't always. I have in the past looked up their address, and instead of trying to answer with an email, I've gone and knocked on their door and sat down in their front room and talked to them about the problem and worked it out. Another thing is you'll find me at least once a month, sometimes more than that, down at our senior center. We'll go down to help them celebrate their birthdays, and often just to help them serve lunch to get to mingle with those people. So, there's just so many opportunities you have, and you've got to get out there among the people. When I talked earlier about the new parks, the two new playground parks we built, obviously I can't spend a whole day out there, but on both of those parks, I went out and lent a hand and carried a few things around, dug a few post holes for those people. So, it's kind of one of those questions that you're out there and you kind of forget all the things you do just because you're doing them. So,
Yeah, Bob, that question is, you're wanting us to pat ourselves on the back. And I think I've done that, and so has Jerry, and well-deserving. There's one thing about it. If I'm mayor, I don't think I'll have a problem in communication with people and drawing to them. That's been kind of my forte, and I think I could deal with any kind of situation. I have to in business every day. I meet people that are ornery, that want to take my head off, and I just smile and say, "Do you want another one of those tires or not?" And they kind of smile and whatever. So, we just keep going. But I've learned that we just keep going, smile, because that's what we all need. Everybody, we're always going to run into people that are discouraged and whatever. We need to build them up. So, thanks.
In the same vein, we're looking at a national politic that is so divisive and so unwilling to talk. The question that one of our questioners asked is, what do you bring to the table that assures us that you can work with the city council, with city personnel, with mayors in Salt Lake County, and with the legislature? What are the specific things you bring to the job as mayor that will help us feel confident that you'll be a player and not an adversary.
Is it me? You sure? I'm just giving you a hard time. Well, I think that's an excellent question, and I'll go back to even before I became mayor. As a city council member, I served on boards. I served on, as I still am, a member of the Unified Fire Authority Board. I was on the initial Salt Lake County Sanitation District number 2 board. I was a charter chair of that board. We established it. It's since become Wasatch Front Waste Recycling. And as a council member, I spent time up the legislature promoting our city, trying to get some of the things we talked about, some of the fundings. So even before I became mayor, I had relationships built up with these people, with then Mayor Caroon, and now Mayor McAdams of the county, with our legislators, with many of the mayors around the city. So that was an easy transition for me. But I think you very correctly stated that that's pretty key to this position, because no city is an island. We rely on others, other elected officials, other appointed officials, largely for our success. And we have to be able to cross some of those political boundaries and sometimes trade favors to get what we need. So, if you look on my website, my campaign literature, I've been endorsed by virtually every mayor in the county, in Salt Lake County, by almost every elected official in Salt Lake County government, by most of our elected officials, senators, House, members of a House. I feel like I have very good working relationships with all these people, which only goes to help serve the city of Taylorsville as we promote our interests in those avenues.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I don't have all those credentials of all the mayors and that, because I probably don't go to the meetings. You don't ever invite me, so. But anyway, I don't have a problem, like I said. When I become mayor, I'll be right up there. I'll be able to mingle right with people. As far as you mentioned the city council and I, not unless they differ, we differ in opinions. Everybody does. But there hasn't been one city council meeting that hasn't been, hi, how you doing, whatever, talk, whatever. We don't agree on everything, but it's not wrong to disagree. And I respect all the people that have their opinions. We learn from those, and they learn from people that agree and disagree. I think sometimes we get personal when somebody doesn't agree with something, and we need to just sit back and we all have our own opinions. And but as far as like personality and getting along and with government, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't think they'll have a problem with me. I told you before, as I was bragging about myself, that I think I can deal with those situations. I've dealt with them a long time. What makes me qualified for this position is being in business for 34 years. I know I beat that to the ground, but that's a long time. And I must have done something right and treated a few people right, and to stay in business. And I'm proud of that. I have a lot of people that drop in just to say hi, how you doing, and see how I'm doing, and that reflects on being outward and outgoing. And like I said, I won't have a problem mingling with senators or whatever I need to mingle with, because I'll just deal with it like I should. Thank you.
Buttle, if you'd like.
Yes, please. Thank you. First off, this is by no means meant to give any disrespect, but I think the key here is as I stated in my opening remarks, is as a city council member, I made the effort to build those relationships as a council member. I fostered those. I got out and went to the meetings with those people. I wasn't always invited. I volunteered to be on the boards so I could build those relationships. And I spent time at the legislature. So as mayor, when I went up there, I wasn't just some fresh face showing up because I want a favor. They knew me. And I spent an entire year fostering those relationships. And a lot of the things we've got going on and the good things we're going to be seeing is relationship based. And so, again, going back to what I said a little earlier, sometimes we say, and we can put down in literature that yes, we will do all these things, but I think you have to go back and look and say, what have you done and where have you been up to now?
A couple of questions were submitted asking us to go back to the idea of the Redwood Road Fire Station. To kind of summarize, the question is, if we do not join the fire district, what are you willing to do as mayor to upgrade, to refurbish, or to replace that, and would that involve raising taxes? Mr. Johnson, it's to you.
I think I stated when we were talking about the fire district before, I know that fire station needs some attention. But I am more willing to bond, because a bond eventually will be paid off, and it comes out of sales tax. And I just don't see a reason to force more tax upon people when we can bond. Bond is interest. We pay on a bond with interest, but that goes away after so many years. I think the bonds we have now out are 15, 18 years. That sounds like a long time, but it doesn't affect, it does affect all of us, but it doesn't affect a lifetime tax increase that will never go away. And that's my thinking on that. We do need to address that fire station. I'm not interested in building a Taj Mahal as they proposed. The fire district, when they came and proposed, they said that the money will go for this building that was $3 to $5 million, I think it was, and for benefits and for staffing. And that's fine and dandy, but you know what, we can do it a different way. And we also, I want to reiterate, is if we join the fire district and we do that, we lose our control, local control. We have one member, which is, I think, Mr. Reckenbach right now, out of 12 members. So we lose our local control, we lose our tax representation, and why do we have a city council? Or, you know, if we're going to lose all our say in what goes on, you know, and that's what's happened. UPD's the same way. We've lost our control there. We have 1 out of 10 votes, and the fire is 1 out of 12. And that's why I'm opposing. Thank you.
Mr. Reckenbach.
Thank you. I've been very clear right from the start, and I'm on the record many times saying that there's no question that if we have to build that fire station, there's no way we raise taxes for that. That's a bond issue. But it's not a 10, 12-year bond. It's a 15 or 20-year bond, which we would be looking, depending on the cost of it, $400,000 to $500,000 annually, which obviously the taxpayer is going to have to pay for those 15 or 20 years. But yes, that's what we would have to bond. As far as if we'll have to do it, that's not really a question. I mentioned this earlier. I asked for the study, and the team of engineers and architects came back and were very clear in their recommendations that no, it's not in good enough condition for us to expand, build up, or build out on. And no, it's not adequate as it is currently. So it's a matter of we are reconstructing. So the next question is where? We need to have a spot large enough, much larger than where it is now, because that's not adequate for today's apparatus to have to go in there. So we do have to reconstruct that. So, I mean, that's really the issue. Now, were there other questions about that? Okay. Then let me address it. Since I got a minute and a half left, I'll address the issue of control. We currently are one member on the board. If it goes district, we'll still be one member on the board. So, I guess that can be argued. What we have to consider is the fact that Mr. Johnson said he doesn't want to build a Taj Mahal. His idea would be to restrict it to some, I guess, humble fire station. I suppose my approach to that is I'm not a firefighter. I'm not the professional, and I would expect that those professionals to advise us and to advise us honestly and fairly as to what needs to be in there. And I would propose that we build what's needed for our firefighters and for, the last thing I want to do is hamper our firefighters in doing the job that we're hiring them to do.
Yes, just a couple comments. This committee, I talked about the ad hoc committee that was put together with 10 unbiased people that the city council members picked 2. That was put together by Chairman Barber. and Janice Auger was the head committee, chairman there. They came back with findings, and of course they recommended that Taylorsville didn't need it. Well, we need something, but where I have a problem is if we didn't need it, and we got to have it, but yet the city and of course the district is promoting it pretty heavy right now. It seems like every meeting or every function we go to, we have some member of the fire there or a truck or whatever kind of promoting. We had a strategic meeting on a Friday back in, I don't know the date, but it was at a fire station out on 13th West and 126th South. Beautiful place, but I'm sure that was more a strategic meeting for to sell the goods. But I still have that same stance where we need a bond and forget the huge tax side, because it's going to be there and it's permanent.
We've been here an hour and a half, and I don't see that anybody's fallen down and gone to sleep yet. Thank you very much for that. But I want to end on a different note. Woodrow Wilson said that all great men are dreamers. They see things in the crackle of a campfire light from the starlit sky, and most men let their dreams die. But great men nourish their dreams till they bring them to the sunshine light that comes always to those who dare to dream. Another smart man once said, there's more to building a community than managing money. So I want you to dream for a little bit for me and tell us where we're going to be in 15 years if you're mayor. Dream for me. Mayor.
Thank you. I kind of got off on this tangent a little bit earlier when I talked about my vision. And my vision is just that. At Taylorsville, that, as I said, when someone enters Taylorsville from whatever jurisdiction it is, that they can exhale, that they feel comfortable, they feel safe. It's different. It not only looks different, but it feels different. I think the people in Taylorsville are different. They're friendly. First off, I'm not as old as Larry, so I haven't lived here as long. But I have lived here a long time. Probably 40 plus years that my family's lived in Taylorsville. And again, my kids all graduated from Taylorsville High, and that was on purpose. We moved here purposely because that's where we wanted them. So my vision is just that, is to create a place, a sense of place for our people that's safe, attractive, and livable. So you don't feel like I'm going to have to move to Harriman because my neighborhood's going in the toilet, because our city cares enough to take care of it. And the vision I've tried to promote to our staff, and you'd better nod your head right now, thank you, is that in our economic development, we're not just bringing businesses in. We're not just trying to bring a store here and there, a restaurant to the family center, for instance. We need to transform it. We need to transform it into something that's not Jordan Landing, that's not whatever Murray calls theirs or the district, that is Taylorsville. And that's a vision we are working on currently. And that's a vision I hope that the voters out there will allow me to continue to work on for the next 4 years, because it'll be fantastic. It'll be fantastic. And as I said in my opening remarks, we're very close. Now, you always have to be careful when you're saying those things, because economic development is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so we've been working, running this marathon for a few years, and we finally get to the point where I'm cautiously optimistic, more so than I've ever been, and we have some great things. Taylorsville has some great things to offer, and my vision is that we will create an entity that is clearly different, that's transformed, and offers something that nowhere else around here is going to offer.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, the many years that I've lived here, this is a dream. It's still a dream to me. I had many chances to move from the city. Being successful, my wife and I decided, we're going to go to Alpine, and I just thought, wow, I'm not moving from here. These are things that we all dream about, is having our kids around us. And I have three of my children that are married that live close. One lives in Farmington. My grandchildren are close. This means everything to me, and this is the thing that I dream about. I don't want a city that is going to chase them off. I don't want to be chased off. I plan on retiring here. I plan on being buried here. I'll tell you that right now. I already have lots. But This is the place that I was born and raised, and this is the place I love. And I know the people. I know a lot of people, and I know people that I ran into that knows my grandpa, you know, and grew up with him and we're friends and talk about old times. And these are things that I cherish. The thing that I want to make sure is that we as people grow with the city, that we as a city don't leave them behind with high taxes and a burden upon them all the time, that they want to be here, they want to stay here, and they want to continue to spend their money here. And we just don't want to chase them off. We just need to be a city that we're known for who we are and what we have stand for all these years, and continue that. Just like I got a minute here, I might take it, but as I serve on the committee down at the dairy, the
Historical.
yeah, my mind goes blank for a minute. What a great honor that is to bring back memories, and we need to preserve those places in the city. We need to keep places that and bring back things that Mr. Bringhurst told me that they brought over, some old tools and stuff from way back in the 19 whatever. These are the things that mean a lot to me, and these are the things that I'm going to work forward to keep and cherish and build this city and take care of the people, and I'm going to do it, and I have done it, and I'm proud of it. That's why I'm still here. Thank you.
And your rebuttal. All right, we've come to the kind of the end of the day. What I'd like to do, because Mary, you won the coin toss, you got to go first. Would like to give you 3 minutes to kind of summarize and give your final pitch, and then we'll ask Mr. Johnson to close the day with his. So 3 minutes is, what did we miss? What do we need to know?
Well, I remember at the risk of losing anybody, I see Dale's leaving already, but
That's not Dale. Dale's over there.
oh,
There he is.
so you look so much alike from behind, Dale. Sorry. At the risk of boring somebody, I remember in business school, a communications class telling me that when you do these things, you always start off by telling them what you're going to say, and you build that up, and then you conclude by telling them what you said. So in light of good communication theory, I'm going to tell you what I said. And so here we go. And I'm going to read this, but I want you to know that I read it so I don't get it wrong. These are things I wrote as they were flowing off my mind. But I truly feel this is a critical time for Taylorsville. The choices we make now will have a long-term effect on our city and you as residents for many years to come. But I firmly believe the framework is in place that will lead to some very positive economic development opportunities for us in the near future. Now, the message I have gotten from the people and businesses in Taylorsville is clear. They want a clean, attractive, and safe community and are willing to pay a little bit more if necessary to preserve that. As a city, we must invest in the programs that will create a positive return on that investment. History has shown us that a community that fails to invest in itself soon experiences deteriorating neighborhoods, which leads to higher crime and in turn leads to higher cost than if the investment had never had a higher cost than if the investment had been made to start with. So we have to focus on our neighborhoods, our parks and open space, and our transportation corridors. We all want a community that we can be proud of, but as elected officials, we must be willing to sometimes make hard decisions to create and maintain that community. We must be willing to reinvest in that community to make that happen. But we must also exercise fiscal responsibility while doing it. My policies and actions since becoming your mayor have been consistent with that belief. I have been outspoken in my belief that we cannot invest in programs that will not have a positive return on that investment, and I will continue that. I have also been outspoken in my belief that we need to enhance our interaction with the community and have more communication with them, which is why we have reorganized the code enforcement and organized community councils. So in closing, the last thing I'd like to say is that I am the candidate who's not just looking at today or tomorrow. I'm looking at where we need to be and want to be as a city in 20 years. I'm the candidate who won't just say, I believe in economic development, but I have a plan and I have been actively working that plan. I am the candidate that will not just say no to everything, but will say no when unnecessary spending is on the table and say yes when an investment is needed in our city. I appreciate you all being here and enduring what you did. And I just ask you to, if I found favor, to vote for me in November and allow me to continue as your mayor. Thank you very much.
Mr. Johnson, 3 minutes.
I'd like to say that I respect Mayor Reckenbach in every aspect. I've known him for years, and we have a little bit difference of opinion on things. And so my final statement is, during the last 2 years, we have witnessed a 40% and then a 47% tax increase to the people of Taylorsville. During this time, I have heard from numerous people who have voiced their concerns about these proposals at public hearings and through many phone calls, emails, and face-to-face discussions. The vast majority of these exchanges have let me know that most residents are adamantly against these proposals. Many of these people have expressed a concern on how we, as a city, spend their dollars. They believe that we should tighten our belts just like they do. The last 6 or 7 years have been very trying financially for many of our residents, businesses, property owners, and especially those who live on fixed income. As I said in my opening statement, we don't have the luxury of raising other people's taxes for spending ours. We have to live with what we have. As your mayor, I will consider your concerns and your need before I make decisions for the city that will affect all of us. I would like to see more of the people running the government instead of the government running the people. We have seen a trend nationwide for more and more spending by our governments. This is a trend that I believe that has trickled down to local governments. I would use good judgment and common sense in running the city. I believe that we can do more with less. As Governor Herbert quoted, and I quote, "In these tough economical times, we have had to cut our budgets, live within our means, and we have had to do better, had better outcomes than we have had before doing with more with less. Bigger bang for our buck," end quote. As your mayor, I will work hard to make Taylorsville a clean, safe, and affordable place to live. I hope that you will give me your support on November 5th. And thanks for being here, and appreciate all of your thoughts and your support. And I'd like to thank Mayor Reckenbach for his service to the city, and thank you.
The great leader Vince Lombardi said, "Glory goes to those who wear themselves out bloody on the field of battle." And I think both these candidates are worthy and honorable men. They've run for election and won, and they're running again. They put themselves and their families and their reputations on the line to represent us. They deserve our gratitude. They deserve our thanks. Most of all, they deserve our serious consideration. They present to us a little bit different views on how to run this city. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people requires that we, as citizens, make wise decisions. So I'd encourage you to think about what was said today. Go home and talk to your neighbors. Don't just vote alone, but let your neighbors know who these people are, who they're running for, what they're standing for, and let's make Taylorsville a wonderful city. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you, candidates. Have a nice evening, folks.
Thanks, Bob.